Yes, it is.
Are we live? Are we live? We're going live, it's good. So, welcome to the Planning Committee meeting. I note that we have Councillor Elliott, the Lord Mayor, Councillor Lohberger, Alderman Bloomfield, Alderman, what's your name again? No, sorry. Kelly, and Councillor Harvey in a new look. And we have our CEO here as well. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda, sorry. Okay. Oh, we've got apologies there. Councillor Dutta, Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Basol, Councillor Lohberger, Councillor Kitsos and Councillor Coates.
Just a note that I'm actually here.
Get it together, mate.
Yeah, we'll believe you.
I accidentally rejected the meeting somehow on my diary. Couldn't get it back.
All right. I missed an acknowledgement to country. I apologise for missing acknowledgement to country. I hadn't put my agenda up, so I'll acknowledge those past and present in our community of the land in which we are here which we are here meeting. Indication of pecuniary conflict of interest. Any? None? It's only one item anyway. Planning Authority item considered items with deputations. So we've got deputations. Obviously we've got a number of deputations there. Yes. All those in favour?
Aye.
Yes. We have Representative Alan Goff. Alan?
Yes, that's me.
Pleased to have you here. You've got 5 minutes and then you'll have question time. So, and we're acting as a planning authority, as we all know. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Mayor, councillors, aldermen and others. As you just found out, I'm Alan Goff. I've lived in Adelaide Street and Wentworth Street, adjacent to the South Hobart Park and Oval precinct for over 45 years. Until I broke my neck 15 years ago, I regularly used the Oval and its facilities as both a use as an adult, playing tennis and running and doing fitness training on the Oval. As a parent, helping bring up 3 children, throwing, kicking, hitting balls of all sorts, sliding, riding, flying, slides, swings, bicycles, kites, models, all sorts of things with my children and with others, mostly on the Oval. Since I moved back into the precinct post-quadriplegia rehab 6 years ago, I've regularly helped young people in running and fitness training on the Oval. I've not owned a dog, but have enjoyed the company of many dogs and their slaves on the Oval. I was a registered practising sports coach until 2008. I'm not affiliated with any organisation, but I believe I am representative of many residents living around the Park and Oval precinct. The design presented in the application in question appears to act against the intent of the first objective of the South Hobart Oval and Park Draft Master Plan 2023. I did look, but I wasn't able to find an updated or finalised version of the plan. The objective states managing the South Hobart Oval and Park to support a diversity of community, sporting and recreational activities. The application appears instead to restrict the use of the Oval as much as is possible to soccer only. The plans do this by removal of the most frequently used public access gate on Wentworth Street, plus the doggy do collection bag supply and the rubbish bin. It also removes the only existing safe pusher, mobility scooter and wheelchair access to the Oval by replacing a sloping path with steps. Proposing a location, it also proposes a location for a new public access gate plus bag supply and bin in a location which is much less convenient for most other users and impossible and unsafe for others. I can give more detail. In fact, there was more detail about that in the first submission I lodged on the 13th of December. It also, on one of the drawings in the set of 90-odd pages submitted by the football club, it added a new gate opening from the mid-boundary Wentworth Street footpath directly onto the deck of the proposed building, which therefore appears intended to only be opened for soccer club use. Over the years, the general access of the oval has steadily reduced. Presently, during weeks when matches are played on Saturdays and Sundays, and training includes juniors during the week, that training extends from 3:30 to 7:30, 8 p.m. in the evening, weekday evenings. This restricts other uses of the oval to roughly Friday, Saturday and Sunday evenings. Obviously not so much during the day, but then most users want to use the oval after business hours during the week, or obviously during the day at weekends. Most of those hours are now taken up by the soccer club. May I suggest that it is time to consider fixing the share each type of oval use should enjoy to meet the master plan objective stated at the beginning.
30 seconds.
I understand the motivation for this application is to get away from Wellesley Street Soccer Park because the playing surface is not very good. But there are so many other facilities already at Wellesley Park, and there is plenty of room to extend those facilities, both spectator-wise, parking-wise, playing facility-wise, that would $1.5 million be better spent levelling that oval properly.
Well, you've just gone over time, so can you just sum it up, please?
Okay. The overall picture at Wellesley Park is there's potential to grow, whereas South Hobart Oval doesn't really have it. The main other concern I had is the proposed building at the South Hobart Oval is inappropriate. It includes a 100-seat social building with catering facilities, which could be used 24 or 7 days a week, 52 weeks of the year. And that obviously adds large parking and other burdens to the area, including the possibility of people rolling out late in the evening having consumed considerable amounts of alcohol. It doesn't seem appropriate in a residential area.
Sorry,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Goff, I have to... Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there'll be any questions? Councillor Harvey.
No, thanks, Chairman.
Alderman Kelly.
Thank you for that. You make mention how it's going to restrict other sports playing there. I'm just a bit confused how a facility with new change rooms for all different sorts of people would actually restrict others being there.
At the end of that proposal, I suggest that the ideal outcome would be to approve the change rooms, but not the social facility, because the change rooms are obviously needed. There's no argument about that, and they would assist other sports to use the grounds. It wouldn't affect adversely affect general use of the grounds for other things.
Thank you.
Alderman Bloomfield. Councillor Logan.
Thank you, Chair. Just through you, Mr Goff. I just noticed the map that you've supplied to us, which I guess came from the proponents.
Yes. So you're looking at the diagram or the map?
That's the one. This,
Yep,
the overhead diagram of the
yes.
building. Yeah, it does show another gate on the existing fence line. Is that the existing gate? So there's the one you've circled, but just to the right of that, there is another gate marked.
On one of the other drawings, it is shown as that gate being removed and the path redesigned, and every drawing of the set that is provided has the redesign, including steps.
Yeah, I
in
can
that
see
what
the
is
steps are on
currently
there.
a sloping path from that gate. The other thing that the other place they're putting the existing gate right down in what is the southeast corner, which means to get into the ground you have to walk down or drive a chair or whatever down what is in fact a vehicle right of way, which is quite steep at the beginning and gravel, so it's quite dangerous for a wheelchair. And then you have to walk down the whole length of the back line of the oval to get to the far corner before you can get into the oval.
So I guess they don't open the main vehicular access, which is the other sort of flat entry into the site, or flat.
Not normally
It's
open.
not normally open. Okay.
And the other pedestrian access is not normally open either. If you're in a wheelchair, it is as a pedestrian standing up, but in a wheelchair or other wheeled vehicle, you have to be able to get out of the vehicle, open and prop the gate open. It's spring-loaded to close. It's very steep and it has a slope on it, so it's very difficult to use.
I've actually already highlighted that section in the thing. I'll be asking staff some questions about
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, it was just around, thank you for your deputation and all this information, which is good to have. So you're suggesting that, so these, can you tell me a bit more about these diagrams you've provided?
Yeah, in the original proposal, I suggested that there were some possibilities of putting off-street parking into the grounds without adversely affecting the usage of the ground. The most places you would get in is by building the change rooms with car parking along the top of them, which will therefore not be on the footpath. It would be inside the footpath, inside the grounds. And there's another area on Washington Street where you could also put a few places like that. There's simply vacant asphalt at the moment. I think the maximum you get is about between 13 and 16. I did a bit of an estimate. I didn't have time to go around the tape there.
Okay, but yeah, the gate that you're talking about, or the access into the oval that concerns you is Wentworth Street, close to the corner of Belton.
Yes. Yeah.
Which currently is a way people can sort of...
Pretty much everybody
Shortcut.
drives their car up, parks and goes in through that gate for whatever use pretty much all the time. Certainly all the dog owners do, apart from maybe a few local people who live on Washington Street. But to get in, say, through the right-of-way at the end of the Belton Street end of the oval, literally it's about a 60-metre walk down the right-of-way to another gate that is right in the far corner.
So if the gate, though, that they propose is required to stay open 24 hours, would that deal with your... Or does it go straight into the building? It's actually onto the deck. Yes.
So yes, it could be left open 24 hours. I suspect the club would be highly resistant to that because they're putting people right next to their facility and they're going to wear out that bit of deck fairly quickly because there will be hundreds of people that go in there a week.
But basically, unless there's some access preserved, there will be no access into this community part of Oval.
Yes.
On Wentworth Street.
Yes, apart from the one right down through the vehicle right-of-way, which is off the vehicle right-of-way, not off Wentworth Street by the time you get to it, yeah.
All right, thank you for that.
Sorry, I'm sorry. You'll be making a representation as well? Yeah. Councillor Elliott.
I'm fine. I have questions for the officers, but I'm fine.
Okay, Mr. Goff, I just have one point. Are you aware that the Building Code of Australia will deal with when this matter goes to the building application stage, will deal with all DDA aspects of the development in accordance to the report?
So what you're saying is that this will go after whatever decision the council makes. This will go to technicians to correct.
Yeah, what happens next is it'll go to the building department to give consideration to the plans in accordance to the building of the redevelopment, and they have to meet in respect of DDA laws and traffic and parking management, would need to comply in accordance to DDA standards. That's in the report.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Does this mean, I'm sorry, that you make a final decision before they start or after they've finished?
We're making a planning decision, not a building decision. So what will happen next is if the council approves this planning application, then the proponents have to put in their building plans to rebuild the site if it gets approved, right? And those plans will be assessed under the Building Code of Australia. Okay, so what I'm getting at is wheelchair accessibility, and it says in the report, if I may point it out, that the proponent is encouraged to seek the advice from council design team regarding the maintenance and provision of wheelchair access to the site. So there's still, in respect of the wheelchair access, that still needs to be completely determined. This is the planning application, there's still the building component.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would submit that, relatively speaking, the wheelchair and disability access is a minor concern, but as you say, can be technically corrected. What cannot be technically corrected is putting a 100-seat social club room in a quiet residential street.
Okay, that's another matter. No problem, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
We have another representative in Emma Smith.
Thank you,
Come
Councillor.
forward, Emma.
We'll get out of your way, Emma. Okay.
Good afternoon. I am a neighbouring resident of the proposed development, and I'm here today to express a number of concerns regarding this plan, and these were outlined further in my representation. I urge for the inclusion of appropriate and mandatory conditions in any approval to address these concerns. Firstly, the design and siting of the proposed building works will detrimentally affect the streetscape, the character, the historical and cultural significance of the precinct. In the recommendation report that you've received, and it's part of the agenda, there is a recommendation to prohibit the removal of trees. This is in keeping with the streetscape and it will assist in reducing vehicle emissions, and I seek that this be included in any conditions to address these concerns. There is a recommendation that the colour and material palettes be approved and submitted. That is only one component in maintaining the cultural and historic integrity. The proposed building doesn't reflect the traditional size, height, scale, massing or form of the surrounding precinct and the historic buildings. This is going to detract from the sense of place and the visual coherence, particularly from the view of the oval and the properties that are facing onto the oval. It's going to overwhelm the area and alter the character. The planning fails to consider the impact to the streetscapes and the precinct from multiple angles. The planning speaks to the angle from the street, not from any other angle. This proposal will also impact sightlines and obscure natural heritage such as Kunyani for residents located looking towards the mountain across the ovals. This is a key vista and a place of cultural significance and importance. Secondly, the proposed plan is going to result in direct and indirect unreasonable impacts, noise, increased traffic, emissions, reduced safety and privacy on residential amenity of surrounding lands. The use and development is going to negatively and substantially detract from and interfere with the amenity of users of the locality as a result of the traffic and parking. Stationary vehicles are going to be running for heating. Soccer is primarily a winter sport. There's going to be the prevention of regular parking, particularly on weekends, including blocking access to residential driveways. These are things that we're already seeing. The club's contention that there is not going to be an increase in use it contradicts itself based on their reasoning for wanting to expand and build this development. There's nothing in the proposal that prevents regular parking overspill. The report states that the proponent is encouraged to develop and implement a trafficking and management plan and to seek advice. This fails to mandate or embed this as a requirement in the planning. Consequently, it leaves it open for inadequately planning, and this is something that your committee is able to address at this point before it goes on to future points. The proposal is only going to see an increase in traffic. There are already buses that take up large numbers of parking spots. There's already vehicles that park illegally on the corners and on yellow lines. The number of times I come home and find someone parked across my driveway, this is only going to increase. Further, the amenity and safety is going to be negatively impacted by this increased traffic. There are many children that use the areas, dog walkers, and the conflicts with other traffic are going to increase. The plan and the report recommendations fail to adequately consider the public safety in relation to vehicle safety. Therefore, appropriate consideration and planning must be undertaken to address these issues. The fact the site can't provide for on-site parking doesn't negate the monumental negative impact and the loss of amenity to surrounding residents. And a sole encouragement of planning is a deficit. It needs to be mandated. The recommendation in the report around vehicle movements of the site being limited to certain hours, again, only addresses some of the issue. This access needs to be from the Washington Street side to ensure it doesn't hinder neighbouring properties' rights of way and doesn't increase risks of safety to pedestrians and impact the amenity of residential lands around the proposed development. It's been recommended not to approve the rubbish bin and the pedestrian gate at the southeastern end of the site. This is critical, as approving that gate would obstruct a right-of-way, it would affect privacy and the safety of surrounding residents, and it would impact noise and a loss of amenity, as well as increasing the risks of pedestrians being hit from surrounding two neighbouring driveways. There's insufficient evidence of accessibility, as you've heard from the previous speaker. The report recommendations only refer to wheelchair accessibility. They state the proponent is encouraged to seek advice. This again should be mandated, not encouraged. That is inadequate. It must consider a wider range of accessibility requirements, and it needs to ensure meaningful consultation takes place with disability. I heard the comments that were made in relation to the building code. However, it's my submission that that would be an afterthought. This is a stage where you can seek that the soccer club makes meaningful consultation with people with disability and affected communities. I implore the committee to mandate appropriate conditions beyond those recommended in the report and to ensure that these concerns and inconsistencies with the planning scheme and requirements are comprehensively addressed.
Sum up. We've let you go over time, so...
Okay. This development must not negatively impact the amenity, privacy and safety of the surrounding residents and the public, and it simply cannot be built in the manner that has been proposed without disrupting the continuity and historic atmosphere of the precinct. That concludes my
Thank you very much, Emma. Councillor Elliott, any questions?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thanks for your deputation. Did you see that in the conditions there is a requirement to keep the trees, the street trees?
Yes. So I was speaking that I encouraged that would be approved by the committee.
And the streetscape heritage character, what do you... I think it says there's a suggestion that there's the external colours follow the palette of... I don't know what the palette would be. Is it kind of...
Red brick, sandstone, weatherboard.
Yeah.
Pitched roof rather than Killian roof. No,
then that would be...
Roof.
That would be higher then though, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't be any different in height. Just be pitched from both sides rather than one side.
So, was there anything apart from that colour palette, which I think sort of might be captured in the conditions?
Yes, so I accept that recommendation does address the colour and the building materials, but it doesn't adequately reflect the size and the scale and the mass and the way that is going to alter the cultural and historic integrity of the area.
And I guess just, in terms of your experience or observations of the site, just how important is it that people can get into the Oval via Wentworth Street?
It's a key entrance, and I know when the football club is regenerating the turf, for instance, there are significant challenges for people not being able to access via that entry point when that gate's locked. The use of people coming down the right of way increases the safety risk to people because that is a residential driveway effectively. So there are vehicles of residents going up and down there, which also in terms of requiring that to be an accessible entry point, that's going to increase the risks of safety to people who are needing to access that as an accessibility point. So that would be an inappropriate solution to accessibility.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lohberger. Alderman Bloomfield. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Harvey.
No, thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Emma. And we have Sarah Callaghan.
I didn't get the memo about the 5 minutes, so as two of my colleagues, my neighbours, before me have spoken on some aspects, I'm going to try and jump some of my stuff, so forgive me if it now appears a bit disjointed.
I have been lenient to everybody thus far, so it will come to the point where I have to shut it down.
I try not to. I can speak quite quickly.
Thank you.
But thank you in advance for listening. My name is Sarah Callaghan. I am a South Hobart resident, and I'm speaking on behalf of numerous residents in the area. Not all the names have been submitted in my deputation, but I can give you a list if you so require. I did note that your mission reads, working together to make Hobart a better place for the community. So I hope what I'm about to outline will achieve that mission. We do note that some previous concerns have been addressed, and I thank you for that. I have also noted that this is a planning committee, so not responsible for some matters that relate to landowner and asset manager, but I do address you as City of Hobart Council, and therefore I do believe that you have a responsibility to liaise with yourselves on some of these matters to find a solution that benefits the community. We need to understand how this development application in its current design will benefit all of South Hobart community, just not the South Hobart Football Club. We're not against the improvement of facilities, and we do understand that the football club is a vibrant and key part of the community that a lot of young people have connected to. However, we are looking for a structure that will benefit a single community, not something that would be dominated by one organisation. It would make our whole community stronger. We are seeking written assurances that the ground will not be exclusive to any particular organisation, that access for the community will not be reduced, and the community will be able to have adequate access to new and existing facilities. I was going to cover 4 aspects, but I'm going to cut a couple of those out because they've already been covered. But my first thing that I'd like to mention is public health impact. I've referred to several programs and documents predominantly produced by the Heart Foundation and also the Tasmanian Health and Wellbeing Advisory Council. In all of these, it's recognised that community health and wellbeing is prioritised as a primary objective in all levels of planning. It's important that the community have access to a range of quality open spaces for both active and passive recreation. We have to have multifunctional spaces that are supportive of the whole community, we have to ensure that South Hobart Recreation Ground and its facilities provide that. Research has found that Australians want to be more active in their neighbourhoods. It demonstrates that the inclusion of public open spaces that promote walking, physical activity and public life supports everyone to be healthier and more active. It recommends that facilities be built so all can use. Was this taken into consideration in the planning application made by the football club? I'm going to jump a bit here because, sorry, you covered some of it, but I see no explanation or insight to explain how these facilities will benefit the whole community outside of the soccer community. So we ask, does it meet the criteria of Pillar 2 in the City of Hobart's strategic plan? Sorry, I'm jumping a bit. Right, I'm not going to go on about the design of the building because I also believe that we don't really need a canteen and club rooms, and that that space that they're planning to have there could be an outdoor gym. It could be a barbecue area for the greater community to enjoy. How is it determined that the existing infrastructure is not suitable for what they want to do? Would it be more cost efficient to upgrade the existing facilities? We understand that all these facilities, as somebody else has mentioned, are available at Wellesley Park, which I believe South Hobart have exclusive use to. It's less than a kilometre away. So, you know, why are we needing a canteen and club rooms here too? How many facilities does a club need? I ask the council to consider the public health impact that this structure in its current design will have. It's an ideal opportunity to create something that will benefit the community as a whole. I also would like to point out that in the planning application, there is noted that the membership of South Hobart Football will be grown, especially in the area of women. So I do understand why upgraded changing rooms are needed. But although the proposal states that the number of games or the parking and everything in the area will not the increased use, what am I trying to say? Let me just 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll give you 30 seconds because you're way over time. So
yeah, that's all right. All right, I won't, because parking's been covered, I'll leave that. And I've also going to leave consideration for the local heritage. Community concerns. We've been made aware from Andrew Wilkie's office that the federal funding that was made available for the improvements for the Oval generally were not for the soccer club exclusively. He assures us that it's been perfectly clear with the club and with yourselves that all reasonable community concerns must be addressed. I am not aware that planning addresses a wider community. If this exists, this can be published. Can this be published to allay community affairs? While it may not be a mandatory requirement for the community to be consulted, it was a provision of the federal funding. We have raised this with the council as we feel the level of consultation was insufficient. For example, it states that social media posts were undertaken. They were only undertaken on their own page. We can't find any evidence of it occurring on any of the other community pages. They claim to have letterboxed and dropped the local community. We've spoken to people on Darcy Street, Wentworth Street, Washington Street, Belfast Street, where I live. No leaflets were received. This has been raised to the council in a separate department who has raised it with the football club, and we're waiting for the club to respond. As of Monday, no answer was received. As residents of South Hobart, we also have significant concerns that by allowing the soccer club to constrict its own building within the recreation ground, the council will be setting a precedent, allowing the club to propose further private developments on public land. If a new building is to be constructed at the recreation, it should be built.
Sarah, sorry, I have to shut you down. I've allowed it to go way over time.
Right.
I'm sorry about that, but you know.
Well, I can give you a copy of this and you can
Be
circulate
much
it as your
appreciated.
letter.
Thank you very much. I'm very
That's
sorry.
all right.
Questions, Councillor Harvey?
No, I'm fine, thanks, Chair.
No. Loberger, Lord Mayor.
I'll just, the exclusive use, the advice we've received is that it will be, this asset will be able to be leased by other organisations.
But why not build an asset that can appear, that the community could use?
For what sort of thing you think?
Like putting an outside gym on the thing. Why do we have to have community entertaining rooms for the football club? What benefit does that offer to the greater community?
Mr. Chair, am I allowed to speak at all?
I'm sorry.
And yeah, I think that was the main question. Thank you.
That's all right.
Councillor Elliott.
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you very, very much for your representation.
Sorry about my stuttering.
I was
You
very
threw me off
patient
track.
with you. Thank you very much. Now we have Mr. Ed Swan. Mr. Swan, as you well know, you've got 5 minutes. I might be lenient to you if I feel like, no, it's all right, I'm only joking. It's okay. I'll give you the same leniency. It's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to address the Planning Authority Committee regarding the proposed development at 6 Washington Street under the planning scheme. As noted, my name's Ed Swan and I'm here representing South Hobart Football Club in my capacity as a volunteer and as co-president of the club in 2025. As a community club, South Hobart Football Club is an incorporated association and not-for-profit. We have the privilege of training and playing at South Hobart Oval, 6 Washington Street, the proposed development site, since 1910. 2025 represents our 115th year of training and playing at the proposed development site. We are a junior and youth-focused club with more than 500 members and with more than 1/3 female, and this number is rapidly trending towards equal numbers of female and male players. We are a leading club in this regard. As one of the oldest soccer clubs in Australia, we thank the City of Hobart for your enduring support for soccer, Tasmania and Australia's most played team sport and highest participation sport, and supporting South Hobart to be an important and enduring suburban community sports organisation based in South Hobart. As the home ground for the club, the site hosts youth, senior and top flight female and male soccer games with visiting teams from across Hobart, around the state in state league games and interstate visiting teams. In practice, this means the site is used each year by players from southern Tasmanian clubs and all top flight male and female clubs from around the state, as South Hobart Football Club plays in the Premier Leagues, the National Premier League, which is the male top flight statewide competition, and the Women's Super League, the top flight female statewide competition. In terms of numbers, the site's current change rooms see more than 2,500 players each season, with on average 3 games a day each Saturday and Sunday, with only 1 set of change rooms. With back-to-back games, this creates overlap in the use of change rooms at the start, at half-time and at the end of games, with difficulties managing safe and appropriate changing spaces, especially as noted as there is an increasing female participation, and we see female games and male games played back to back. The current arrangements are not fit for purpose. The change room, the fundamental change rooms have not been updated since the 1950s and are not fit for purpose, especially as noted with the changing cohort and increasing female participation. In addition to our main focus supporting and encouraging the playing of soccer and for children, young people and adults to be active, we've also worked to source funding for and propose improvements to the City of Hobart's owned and managed sporting infrastructure, including the South Hobart Oval. This includes engaging all levels of government and applying for grants. I note the club's also engaged in the City of Hobart, encouraging development of a master plan for the site, and the draft master plan highlights the opportunity for a range of improvements to the facility, including improved playing surface, lights, and improved change rooms and amenities. In part, the proposed development is funded by a state government grant that recognises the importance of establishing additional and improved change rooms at sporting facilities to support and encourage female participation where existing facilities are inadequate and not fit for purpose. We've worked with and engaged with the City of Hobart throughout the process of getting us to this point, including requesting and receiving letters of support from the City of Hobart for funding applications for the proposed development, advice on engaging with the planning process, including requirements of the planning application process, activities and requirements of the general manager's consent, as it's a City of Hobart owned asset, which included community consultation, which has been touched on. We've also discussed the preliminary plans with the City of Hobart and focused on the submission of the planning application and supporting materials. Preliminary advice from the City of Hobart was also sought on the proposed development and planning application, which we have sought to respond to in our current application, including responses regarding hours of operation, noise, commercial vehicle movements, additional plan information, landscaping and stormwater plan. Should there be any questions or requirements for provision of additional information, I would be happy to respond and seek to address on behalf of the club as required. Thank you.
Very much. You made it in 25 seconds. It's good. Any questions? Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Has the club been continuously at this ground for 115 years?
Correct.
And when did women start to participate in soccer at that particular ground?
I would have to take that on notice. I want to say at least 15 years ago, if not 20 years ago, but I'd have to take it on notice.
But that growth, so through you, Chair, that growth's been in the last few years?
The female participation?
Well, the level of growth in female participation up to about a third of your membership, or participation, I should say.
Yes, it's been rapid over the last 10 to 15 years. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Could you just explain to me what consultation you might have done with the local people?
Sure. So as part of the, as I said, you know this, but as part of the General Manager's consent, there is the requirement for community consultation. So this was conducted over a 4-week period with consultation promoted via social media, email, including to the South Hobart Primary School, St Michael's Collegiate, the South Hobart Campus and to the South Hobart Progress Association, poster displayed on the 2 entrance gates to the site, letter drops to the residents surrounding the site, and 2 in-person consultations on the site and in person at a meeting of the South Hobart Progress Association. The consultation period was extended to support the in-person consultation and extend the time period for all. And there was a written submission of that consultation that was part of the GMC and I think is part of the main application too.
And through you, Chair, with the funding, so the total project comes to, how much was it?
1.5.
1.5. And could you just give me a breakdown? You mentioned state government had contributed some. How much was that?
500.
And the rest is made up of?
Predominantly Commonwealth funds.
Right.
Yep.
So council, local Hobart City Council didn't contribute anything to this at all?
No.
No, thank you.
Alderman Bloomfield. Councillor Lohberger.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got a couple of questions. Some of the representatives raised issues about the DDA access, the disability access. Would the club be happy to sort of work through those issues in order to try to replicate or replace the existing DDA compliant entrance, I guess, because the steps obviously are going to cause a bit of an issue.
Yes.
Happy to sort of work around that.
Yeah. I mean, it's what, yes.
Fantastic. And the second question was a similar question just around the provision of the infrastructure for dog walkers, so the dog poo bags and the bin, so the bag in a convenient spot near where they come in and then a bin in a similar spot so they can dispose of the faeces when they go out. I guess it's the same question. Would you be happy with work with council around the provision of that being in a really a convenient place for those using the vehicle.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Bobby.
Yeah, thank you. So you mentioned the consultation that you did with the community. From the community?
So, I mean, again, the report was part of our submission. So, just briefly, so overwhelmingly the response was positive for improvements to be made to the site with the addition of inclusive change rooms and improvements to the accessibility of the site. Facilities that support female participation and inclusion were noted as being positive for physical and mental health outcomes. Participation...
Wondering whether you got any sort of practical suggestions of things that neighbours in particular might have proposed that you considered and modified your design in any way?
So I think the short answer is I don't think we changed our design as such. There was commentary made about that they should be gender neutral change rooms, so rather than male, female, change room 1, change room 2, which we took on board but didn't change the design. There was concern about noise from the existing change rooms, and the design, as I think you can see, is effectively subterranean for the change rooms, so that noise was concerns I think are addressed. And I don't think there were other... I mean, I think the other points I think relate to really the use of the ground by the soccer club, whether the development would increase the use of the site. But as we've stated in our submission, we don't see it increasing the use of it because we already play in effect the maximum number of games that we can there each Saturday and Sunday.
So there's no particular, in terms of parking or the access from Wentworth Street, that wasn't raised, or was it raised?
So yes, it was raised, but again. So parking and traffic congestion in South Hobart, the lighting for the site, they were raised. But as I say, we addressed that in our submission. So in terms of parking and traffic, we don't see the development leading to an increased use of the site. It's still the same number of games that we played each Saturday and Sunday. It just would mean that the facilities were more fit for purpose for the cohort of people playing soccer at the ground.
There was a suggestion of mandating a traffic plan. Like, how would you imagine the club could deal with some of the traffic? Like, presumably you're an ambitious club, you hope to have more crowds, more visitors. What would you do for a traffic plan?
Well, it's not an area of expertise, but we would be very keen to work with the council as to how we can best manage that. I mean, I think some of the other submissions that I have noted that travelling clubs do, particularly those from the north of the state, attend the ground often via a bus, and so obviously that takes up some space. We regularly communicate to our members and those that attend to, park appropriately in appropriate places. But as I said, we'd be really happy to work with the council on developing a plan and managing that in an appropriate way.
And so obviously this isn't exclusive use, the facility. Tell me a little bit about the use of your Wellesley Park club rooms and change rooms.
Yes.
How often is that club room used by yourselves? And do you actively promote that it's a room that's available for rent?
Yeah, so it's used regularly by the club, so particularly during the soccer season, most afternoons and most weekends. during daylight hours. It is a council-owned asset. As you know, we are the leasee of that building at the moment. Is it used by other organisations? Yes, it is, and I'm thinking for other, community sport activities.
How do they get access to that? Do you lease it out, or is it?
No, the council does. Yeah.
So in terms of access to the access to the oval from Wentworth Street, and the entrance that comes into the site, the replacement gate that's at grade, would you be comfortable if that was required to be opened 24 hours?
Yes.
And that would then go onto your deck, and then how would people then get down? They'd have to go down some stairs onto the oval?
I think perhaps that's what the other councillor was suggesting, that we work on developing an access that's appropriate for all. I mean, I think it's worth making note that the site is currently not very accessible. There are not currently any DAA-approved toilet facilities at the site, and the proposal includes that, but absolutely we'd be happy to work with you on that.
That would mean quite a substantial change to the design, which might be to put in a DDA compliant ramp into the front of the building down to the oval. That would be
I believe there already is a ramp. It's not quite the right place.
That might be a question for the staff, I think.
You can ask a question through the staff if you want on that one there.
Well,
I don't think
yeah.
there's anyone here appropriate who can answer that. And again, it's a building code matter.
No, I don't think it is. It's about the plans that we're approving. Okay. I think that's all my questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you. My main question was initially related to, and I understand it comes under the building code, around the club's approach to working around ensuring disability access, but I think that's been covered. Can you tell me also about what approach you will take, or what's the club's attitude towards sharing this facility, if and when it exists? How will you manage and respond to other requests for the building to be multi-purpose and shared with other community users?
Yes. So it's a community-owned, it's a community City of Hobart-owned asset, and so obviously, as the proponent for this development, we'd be hoping to have a lease arrangement for it. We're very much viewing it as community rooms in terms of that space and the canteen, and I would suspect that it would be promoted the same way that other City of Hobart facilities are promoted, and other community members are able to seek access to those facilities in an ongoing basis. Yeah.
And also we've heard mention of the acknowledged need for the change rooms and things like that, but can you tell me more about the need for social space, the clubroom space, from the South Hobart Football Club's perspective? Why do you think that's needed?
So there's not currently at the site the kiosk, the 1950s kiosk facility is not fit for purpose and not adequate. So we're seeking to establish a kiosk facility on site. And I guess the community / club rooms next to it would provide a level access space and viewing area for games, but also at other times that would be adjacent to the kiosk, and on that same level the provision of a DAA disability access toilet facility. So I guess both from a soccer club perspective, but also from a community asset perspective, we saw all three of those key elements: kiosk, accessible toilet, and level access viewing space, indoor, out of the weather, would be an addition to the site.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I am correct in saying that would be the only all-weather viewing area? Yes, because it's the grandstand.
Well, that's right. I mean, if you can access the grandstand and you've got a warm coat on in winter, it's
But the only enclosed
fairly all
space.
access, but that's right, it's the only enclosed
Okay.
space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Now I'll open the item for discussion. If there's anyone want to move any recommendations, Councillor Harvey.
Look, Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendation. I'm convinced that this is a much needed facility for this football club, the oldest football club, soccer club in Tasmania, and one of the most successful soccer clubs. And they've been playing out of what I consider, and I've had to look inside the old club rooms, and if you've been inside, you'll see that it's pretty basic, and it is, I agree, that it's a substandard, not fit for purpose facility. So I think this new facility is much needed. It will bring another dimension to the game. It'll have fit for purpose change rooms, especially female change rooms, and we all know that there's been a growth in female sport across all different codes. So I'm supportive of seeing that growth and providing appropriate facilities for female participants, as well as, you know, the kids and the hundreds of other participants. I'm not sure what the exact numbers are that belong to the football club, but I imagine it's in the many hundreds. The community are not being excluded from the area. They'll still have access to the ground. If you could just confirm that. Yep.
Yeah, Mr. North.
Yeah, look, there's no intention. This application deals with the change rooms and the club rooms facilities.
Okay.
Not limiting in any way.
It has no impact on accessibility. The disability access will be dealt with under the building code, so any issues there will have to be addressed so that it does have that access. The heritage officers have supported the proposal, as I read in the report, so there's no issue from a council officer's perspective with regard to heritage. The other thing is the benefits. The issue of health was raised, and I think that encouraging young people to be involved in team sports is really important. A number of primary schools, primary school in the area that I'm sure would be keen to have access to such a facility for whatever their games are during the week, plus encouraging people to become members of team sport, which I think is important for personal development as well as health benefits. It's a lovely sports ground. You know, it's been there for a long time as a soccer ground for South Hobart. Parking, I don't know how you ever resolve that in such a tight residential area, other than encouraging people not to drive to the ground, to use other forms of, you know, mobility if they can. And we hear that the away teams often come by bus. So I think that's an important thing to acknowledge, and that should be encouraged into the future. What else can I say? I think that's all I've really got to say, but I'm supportive of the proposal tonight. It's recommended for approval, and I'll be supporting the officer's recommendation, and I've moved the recommendation for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Look, these venues, so far as I think everyone here agrees that the change room toilet facilities need upgrading, and it's quite disgraceful the condition they're in at the moment. So this is fantastic, fantastic news. So far as the social club room goes, look, this is nothing new. It's sporting grounds right throughout our municipality. You just got to look at the Newtown, out the cricket and football ground there. There's bar and function room facilities up in the grandstand there. The Bowls Club, Newtown Bowls Club, TCA, Queenborough, North Hobart, and the list goes on and on. It's integral to the whole experience for the socialisation, for the community, and for this all-weather viewing. So, look, this is great. I went to the opening of the Clare Street Oval facility upgrade there, which was these were just change room facilities, and $1.3 million was spent there, of which council funded $850,000. And this here, to hear that this is being fully funded, not a cent from council, is just brilliant. I mean, this is an absolute gift to this, and I think the association is to be congratulated thoroughly for the amount of work that I know that goes into these funding applications and having the initiative to do that. So You know, it's going to be available to be used by other members of the community and organisations, and I believe their consultancy was more than what most people do that I've seen with such development applications. So, sure, there may be some minor issues that might need addressing, but overall I think this is a fantastic application, and the proponents should be congratulated for the amount of work they're doing and the amount of work and money that they're saving this local council to be able to spend on other facilities as well. So thank you very much, and I do support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Alderman Bloomfield.
Major questions I had, I think, have mostly been answered, and they were for everything that we're looking at changing. Was there accessibility still for other use, like for dog walkers? And it was talking about wheelchair access, and we were talking about just simple things like, well, if we're going to remove the dog bag station, where is it going to be put? If all of those things are going to be reasonably and fairly addressed, then the entire community benefits from facilities that more than just the soccer community can use. So for that reason alone, I think that this is an upgrade that will support more than just what we see in front of us. I think there could be not just soccer but other sports that could come in line over the many years, and we could also see even the dog walkers themselves being able to utilise these facilities themselves for their own functions. So I'm quite happy, in particular in light of the confirmation that accessibility will not be removed or reduced, that they will be able to go forwards together. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite sympathetic with the representatives who came in to speak to us today, but I'm also very impressed with the proponent who is quite willing to make changes in order to try to keep the community happy around them. I'm very happy to hear that the proponent will work to restore the DDA access. They will work to put the infrastructure for dog walkers back in a convenient place. They want to manage the traffic around the site. They're happy to have other organisations use the building. This is a really, as far as proponents go, this is a very good proponent in my opinion. So while I do have some sympathy with the representatives, I do think the club has done everything it can to address the issues that have been raised, and is obviously happy to work with the community on these issues. So I'm highly supportive of this. I've umpired cricket at a time when women's sport was expanding and had a number of games where there were insufficient change rooms for the female players, and it's really not good enough. So this is a fantastic upgrade for this ground. Being proposed by a proponent who is happy to work with the community to fix any small issues with their development. I'm very happy to support this, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a few more questions before, if we could go back to questions if that's possible. Firstly, I just want to know, just in terms of what involvement did council staff have in the design, and because this is, as you said, this is a council facility, to what extent did council work on the design? And I guess I'm still really unclear from the material I have in front of me about what the situation is with public access to the Oval from Wentworth Street. If someone could maybe bring up the designs on the screen so like we can be crystal clear, because I've got this kind of stuff. I've got sort of black and white documents. I've got a few very high level images of the building, but for me, the ability, I think any public ground, if there's any reduction of access to the ground, public access to the ground, I think that's a really fundamental step backward. So if that's not the case, I'm comfortable.
To clarify the question is, as from the start, is what and if the Hobart City Council staff have been part of any of the design of this? Is that basically what you're asking?
That's the first question. The second question.
Well, look, we're acting as a planning authority, So in relation to that matter, I can advise that with any planning application, the application is lodged and considered by the officers as being adequate or not in which to assess the application. In relation to us acting as landlord, those matters would have been considered at the time the matter was given General Manager consent. So
Wasn't available then, was it?
Sorry?
The design available, that was just...
Most definitely it was for consideration when General Manager consent is given. So the design would have been available. So relevant sections of the council would have been consulted in relation to the detail of the proposal, and for the purposes of the planning consent to lodge would have given authorisation or would have recommended authorisation to the CEO. And I think the CEO might...
Yeah, I'll get the CEO in a moment. Lord Mayor.
Some of that's not particularly clear to us, like transparent to us.
Lord
Yeah.
Mayor, the acting director has made a point. He's given you reference in regards to planning. In regards to matters of design, if the council officers
I understand.
have been part of it,
I don't need
the
you.
CEO is here. I'll direct the council the aspect of design through the process of the CEO acting in his capacity, if he's able to provide some answers to that question, please.
Thanks, Chair. So that the application came to my desk, and obviously being relatively new to the council, I hadn't been subject to the initial work that officers had done with the club in respect to the design. So it came onto my desk to seek General Manager's consent. So at the time, I actually put it back to officers to say, are we comfortable with the design as it's been put forward in respect of addressing any of the elements and the issues that we would have hold important into the design of such a facility, and got that advice back from the officers that they had been consulted and that they were comfortable with the design. So I issued consent on the basis of that inquiry that I made.
And then specifically with the officers, can the officers clarify for me what the access changes are for everybody trying to access this oval from Wentworth Street?
So you're wanting to know the access changes from current to the new proposal, is that correct?
Public access.
Changes,
Public access from, does it basically block off a public access gate? And what are we going to do about that?
Can you provide the access changes, please? That's the question.
Through you, Chair. There is a plan that marks the gate to be removed. Council officers have recommended a condition under PLN S3 that gate and rubbish bin, which are notated on the plan, be retained, and that any removal is not approved.
That's in the southeast though, isn't it? Not the up on Wentworth Street. That's right down at the end of the right-of-way.
No, adjacent to the existing grandstand, there's a gate.
So this one on this diagram, proposed access gate in existing fence.
Yes.
So that will then mean that anyone wanting to getting into the oval, they're not interested in the building, but they're just they're getting from Wentworth Street into the oval, they'll still be able to get through?
Through your Chair, I believe so, yes. There's notations there that the existing path from the gate is to be redesigned, but I would anticipate that keeps access from Wentworth Street through to the ground.
Just so that it's clear for the public who are here tonight, can you just tell us where that is stated? It's in the conditions, is it?
Correct. PLN S3.
PLN S3. Is that it?
That's correct.
Okay. Great. So that's ongoing public access from Wentworth Street through the gate.
Yeah, look, it may be for the purpose of greater clarity that the existing gate from Wentworth Street is retained. So we, to ensure, and I'm fairly sure it's shown on the plans to be retained, but I can't quite...
Is that like an amendment
To be removed.
that I could move or someone could move?
Right, yeah. So, sorry, the actual condition, you're right, is in fact addressing that. So I think, yes. So I suppose in...
Just for to assist the Lord Mayor, could you just read that condition out, please? That way there, the Lord Mayor can...
Through Chair. PLN S3 pedestrian gate and rubbish bin. The pedestrian gate and rubbish bin shown at the southeastern end of the site's Wentworth Street frontage on the site plan, drawing number 1282020 A03 REVB, are not approved. Any existing vehicular access at this point on the frontage must be maintained.
But that's saying a gate's not approved, not that a gate needs to be retained.
The access, the way I listen to that, the access to be retained, there's not been any changes at that point. Is that correct or incorrect? Sorry to do the debate, but Lord Mayor, I believe that the officers answered your question, so can you get on to another question?
No, I'm sorry, but it's not clear because what this currently says is the proponents are saying close the gates from Wentworth Street and instead people can get in, they can walk down the right of way and then go in from the southeast. And I know where this is and it's right down what people were talking about. What we've said is you can't do that because we don't want people going up and down the right of way. What we haven't said anywhere is that we want you to keep public access to the site, pedestrian public access to the site from Wentworth Street. And I'm just saying, can we please include a condition that public access to the site from Wentworth Street needs to be retained?
If we could just have a little time to consult.
Officers will get back to you. Any other questions, Lord Mayor?
I think there's confusion between
No, that's the main concern. I mean, the heritage character stuff, the streetscape and heritage issues are one of the conditions. So,
okay.
Yeah.
The Director's going to give you an answer.
Yeah, look, I think to avoid any confusion, I think we need potentially a further condition that establishes the existing gate adjacent to the stadium is retained.
Adjacent to the not the stadium, what's it called? Grandstand?
Grandstand,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
The grandstand.
In Wentworth Street.
In Wentworth Street is retained.
Yes.
Yes, to avoid any confusion because there is a proposed pedestrian gate shown on the southeast corner,
and we don't
adjacent to the right of way.
Yeah.
That condition 3 also relates to, in my mind. So to have an additional condition that the existing gate is retained.
Okay. So Lord Mayor, move that as an amendment, and we'll discuss the amendment. Sorry. Yeah.
Or if Councillor Harvey's happy to include it.
And we don't do seconders in planning. So we're comfortable the gate's in the right spot, through your chair, and that it's not going to be blocked by the new development or anything like that?
That's correct.
Okay. So it's
Our condition, yeah.
part of the substantive motion. Okay, everybody got that? Okay. Lord Mayor, questions?
I think that was my main concern is that the access, public access is...
Now, so it's clarified very clear so everyone understands it. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. I'll make a couple of comments not relevant to the planning scheme considerations, but obviously I take on board the queries about funding, both in terms of the community's concerns, but also the positive in terms of a great asset for the community that doesn't actually cost the ratepayers anything, so that's a fantastic bonus. I'm pleased to see and very keen to make sure that the accessibility issues are resolved through the building permit process. This asset is desperately needed, and I think it's fantastic that it will be a multi-purpose space, and will encourage the football club to help support the multi-purpose nature of the building. And most importantly for me is that the application meets the performance criteria, which is what we're here for: the recreation zone, development standards and for building works, and the historic heritage zone, heritage code, development standards for heritage precincts. In my opinion, they're satisfied. Like the Lord Mayor, I was going to have a question about Wentworth Street, but that's now been resolved with the extra advice or condition that's going into the permit. So overall, I think this is an exciting development. I do definitely understand the community's concerns, but what's important is that this facility has been there for over 100 years. It would be a different kettle of fish if we were plonking a new facility in a residential area, where it's obviously a shock to the system, but this is a known entity, and it's a popular and growing known entity, and I think it's great. We're desperate for facilities like this, so I think it's a really good result.
Okay, thank you. I normally would summarise. There's no need to summarise. I think enough's been said. So I'll put that to the elected members. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? The item's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. I thank the those who have attended. And
Thank you, Chairman.